Carolyn Leavitt's press conference today was a disaster. Her job is to go out and lie for Donald Trump, and while she certainly tries, she does it badly. Instead of protecting the administration, she made things worse by picking fights with reporters, snapping at basic questions, and repeatedly failing to provide clear answers. It was a chaotic performance, and we're going to break it all down, including every moment of the long-overdue pushback she finally received. Before we get into it, take a second to like this video, and if you haven't already, hit subscribe. It genuinely helps support the work we do here. What makes this moment different is that reporters are no longer letting Leavitt control the narrative. They're pushing back, and they're doing it at exactly the right time, especially as she continues to spread misleading claims about the killing of Renee Good. You can see that shift clearly in the clip we're about to watch.
Earlier, you were just defending ICE agents generally, and earlier on, Secretary Nolan spoke to the media, and she said, among other things, that they are doing everything correctly. 32 people died in ICE custody last year. 170 US citizens were detained by ICE, and Renee Good was shot in the head and killed by an ICE agent. How does that equate to them doing everything correctly?
Why was Renee Good unfortunately and tragically killed?
Are you asking me my opinion? Because an ICE agent acted recklessly and killed her unjustifiably.
Oh, okay. So you're a biased reporter with a left-wing opinion.
What do you want me to do?
Yeah, because you're a left-wing hack. You're not a reporter. You're posing in this room as a journalist, and it's so clear by the premise of your question. And you and the people in the media who have such biases but fake like you're a journalist, you shouldn't even be sitting in that seat. But you're pretending like you're a journalist, but you're a left-wing activist. And the question that you just raised and your answer proves your bias. You should be reporting on the facts. You should be reporting on the cases. Do you have the numbers of how many American citizens were killed at the hands of illegal aliens who ICE is trying to remove from this country? I bet you don't. I bet you didn't even read up on those stories. I bet you never even read about Laken Riley or Jocelyn Nungray or all of the innocent Americans who were killed at the hands of illegal aliens in this country. And the brave men and women of ICE are doing everything in their power to remove those heinous individuals and make our communities safer. And shame on people like you in the media who have a crooked view and have a biased view and pretend like you're a real honest.
A reporter pressed Leavitt on the administration's defense of ICE, noting that Secretary Nolan had just claimed federal agents were doing everything correctly, despite alarming facts to the contrary. 32 people died in ICE custody last year, 170 U.S. citizens were detained, and Renee Good was shot in the head and killed by an ICE agent. The question was simple. How does that equate to doing everything correctly? And why was Renee Good killed? Instead of addressing the question, Leavitt immediately shifted to attack mode. Are you asking my opinion? Because an ICE agent acted recklessly and killed unjustified, she snapped, before pivoting into accusations about media bias. So you're a biased reporter with a left-wing opinion. You're not a reporter. You're posing as a journalist. The premise of your question proves your bias. Leavitt then escalated, insisting the media should be reporting the facts about crimes committed by undocumented immigrants rather than questioning ICE. She rattled off a list of cases and concluded that ICE personnel are brave men and women doing everything possible to make communities safer. Shame on people like you in the media who have a crooked, biased view and pretend you're honest journalists, she said. https www.youtube.com watch.b RUHHWLXBVKs 3.16, 4.13.
Our question is that President Trump has talked twice in recent days, once at the Kennedy Center and then to Reuters again last night about canceling the election. Why is he talking about this?
I believe you're referring to the president's interview at Reuters last night. I was in that interview. It was a closed-door interview. Obviously, there was not audio or video. The president was simply joking. He was saying, we're doing such a great job. We're doing everything the American people thought. Maybe we should just keep rolling. But he was speaking facetiously.
And then one
who asked you about the president's interview with Reuters, you said that he was joking about canceling the elections. But Americans for generations have fought and died for democracy, for this democracy. Are you saying that the president finds the idea of canceling elections funny?
Andrew, were you in the room? No, you weren't. I was in the room. I heard the conversation, and only someone like you would take that so seriously and pose it as a question in that way.
The reporter questioned Leavitt about Trump's recent comments at the Kennedy Center, and in a closed-door Reuters interview where he floated the idea of canceling the election. The reporter asked directly why the president was talking about such a scenario at all. Leavitt dismissed the concern, insisting that Trump was simply joking during the Reuters interview. She said the president had made the remark in a facetious tone, suggesting that because the administration was doing such a great job, they should just keep rolling. She framed it as light banter rather than a serious threat to democratic norms. The reporter pushed back, noting that Americans have fought and died for democracy, and questioning whether Trump found the concept of canceling elections humorous. Rather than address the substance, Leavitt attacked the question, asking if the reporter had been in the room. When he said no, she snapped that only someone like you would take the comment seriously enough to ask the question that way, implying the concern was manufactured rather than legitimate.
To Americans so they can buy their own insurance. How exactly would this work? And can the president assure Americans that this will be enough to cover their health care costs?
So this is the second principle in the president's health care plan, lowering insurance premiums specifically and ensuring that that money is going directly back to the American people and cutting the kickbacks that then raise those premiums. So this plan, once put into legislative text and passed by Congress and sent to the president's desk, will stop sending big insurance companies billions of an extra taxpayer-funded subsidy payments and instead send that money directly to eligible Americans to allow them to buy the health insurance of their choice through, you may have heard it be referred to as health savings accounts. Whether that ends up being the actual name of such accounts, we'll have to see. Again, Congress and the White House are going to work together to put this plan into action. And then secondly, the Great Healthcare Plan will fund a cost-sharing reduction program for healthcare plans which will save taxpayers at least $36 billion and reduce the most common Obamacare plan premiums by over 10%, and that's according to the Congressional Budget Office.
But 20 million Americans in recent weeks have seen their health care costs soar. Can he assure them that if this plan is put in place that they will be able to cover those costs?
If this plan is put in place, every single American who has health care in the United States will see lower costs as a result. They will see more transparency. All of these proposals that are within the Great Healthcare Plan are incredibly popular with the American people, and they will impact everyone, not just a small fraction of those who are within the healthcare marketplace, but every single American will continue to see their costs go down. And I will note that they already are.
A reporter pressed Leavitt on the president's latest healthcare proposal, which would send money directly to Americans so they could purchase their own insurance. The reporter asked how the plan would work in practice, and whether the administration could guarantee it would be enough to cover rising healthcare costs. Leavitt framed the idea as part of the second pillar of the administration's healthcare plan, lowering premiums by redirecting taxpayer subsidies away from insurance companies and toward individuals. She said the plan, once written into legislation and passed by Congress, would stop sending billions in subsidies to insurers, and instead send that money directly to eligible Americans through health savings accounts or a similar mechanism. Leavitt added that the so-called Great Healthcare Plan would also include a cost-sharing reduction program projected to save taxpayers at least $36 billion and reduce marketplace premiums by more than 10%, citing the Congressional Budget Office. The reporter followed up by pointing out that 20 million Americans have seen healthcare costs soar in recent weeks, and asked whether the administration could assure them they would be able to cover those expenses under the plan. Leavitt responded that if the proposal were enacted, every American with healthcare coverage would see lower costs and more transparency. She insisted the measures were popular and would benefit everyone, not just marketplace participants, and noted that prescription drug prices were already declining.
Invoking the Insurrection Act today in the Truth Social post. I'm wondering what his tipping point is. Like, what would it take for him to invoke the Insurrection Act?
Look, that's only a question, frankly, Reagan, the president can answer. But the Insurrection Act is a tool at the president's disposal. As you know, it has been used sparingly, but it has been used by previous presidents in American history. And I think the president's Truth Social post spoke very loud and clear to Democrats across this country, elected officials who are using their platforms to encourage violence against federal law enforcement officers, who are encouraging left-wing agitators to unlawfully obstruct legitimate law enforcement.
A reporter asked Leavitt about the president's latest Truth Social post in which Trump threatened to invoke the Insurrection Act, pressing her on what the tipping point would be for such an action and what circumstances would trigger it. Leavitt replied that this was a question only the president could answer, and noted that the Insurrection Act is a tool available to the executive branch. She emphasized that it has been used sparingly, but has precedent in American history. Leavitt argued that Trump's post was intended to send a message to Democrats who, in her characterization, were using their platforms to encourage violence against federal law enforcement and to support left-wing agitators obstructing legitimate ICE operations. She concluded by saying that only Donald Trump knows what would lead him to invoke the Insurrection Act.
We not give him what he wants. We must protest loudly, urgently, but also peacefully. Indeed, as hard as we will fight in the courts and at the ballot box, we cannot and will not let violence prevail. You're angry, I'm angry. Angry is not a strong enough word, but we must remain peaceful. Second, you are not powerless, you are not helpless, and you are certainly not alone. All across Minnesota, people are learning about opportunities, not just to resist, but to help people who are in danger. Thousands upon thousands of our fellow Minnesotans are going to be relying on mutual aid in the days and weeks to come, and they need our support. Tonight, I want to share another way you can help. Witness. Help us establish a record of exactly what's happening in our communities. You have an absolute right to peacefully film ICE agents as they conduct these activities. So carry your phone with you at all times. And if you see these ICE agents in your neighborhood, take out that phone and hit record. Help us create a database of the atrocities against Minnesotans, not just to establish a record for posterity, but to bank evidence for future prosecution. The third thing I want to say to you tonight is, we will not have to live like this forever. Accountability is coming at the voting booth and in court. We will reclaim our communities from Donald Trump. We will reestablish a sense of safety for our neighbors, and we will bring an end to this moment of chaos, confusion, and trauma. We will find a way to move forward, and we'll do it together, and we'll not be alone. Every day we are working with business leaders, faith leaders, legal experts, and elected officials from across this country. They've all seen what Donald Trump is trying to do to our state, and they know their states could be next. And that brings me to the fourth thing I want to say tonight, Minnesota, how incredibly proud I am of the way that you've risen to meet this unbearable moment. But I'm not at all surprised, because this is who we are. Minnesotans believe in the rule of law, and Minnesotans believe in the dignity of all people. We're a place where there's room for everybody, no matter who you are, or who you love, or where you came from. A place where we feed our kids, we take care of our neighbors, and we look out for those in the shadows of life. We're an island of decency in a country being driven towards cruelty. We will remain an island of decency, of justice, of community, of peace. And tonight I come before you simply to ask, don't let anyone take that away from us. Thank you, protect each other, and may God bless the people of Minnesota.
We cannot give him what he wants. We can, and we must, protest loudly and urgently, but we must do so peacefully. As hard as we will fight in the courts and at the ballot box, we cannot and will not allow violence to prevail. You're angry. I'm angry. Angry isn't even the right word, but we have to keep our discipline. Second, you are not powerless. You are not helpless. And you are certainly not alone. Across Minnesota, people are not just resisting. They are organizing to protect one another. Thousands of our neighbors will depend on mutual aid in the days ahead, and they will need our support. Tonight, there is another way you can help. Witness. Help us build a record of what is happening in our communities. You have the right to peacefully film ICE agents as they conduct operations. Carry your phone. If you see ICE in your neighborhood, take it out and hit record. Help us create a database of these actions, not only for posterity, but as evidence for future accountability. Third, we will not have to live like this forever. Accountability is coming, at the voting booth and in court. We will reclaim our communities from Donald Trump. We will reestablish safety for our neighbors. We will bring an end to this moment of chaos, confusion, and trauma. We will find a way forward, and we'll do it together. And we won't be alone. We are working with business leaders, faith leaders, legal experts, and elected officials across the country. They see what is being done to Minnesota, and they know their states could be next. Fourth, Minnesota. I could not be more proud of how you have risen to this unbearable moment, but I am not surprised. This is who we are. Minnesotans believe in the rule of law and in the dignity of every person. We are a place with room for everyone, no matter who they are, who they love, or where they came from. We feed our kids. We take care of our neighbors. We look out for the people in the shadows. We are an island of decency in a country being pulled toward cruelty. And we will remain an island of decency, justice, community, and peace.